Today, your guest host, Karen Benton, is here. Karen is a mother, nurse practitioner, certified body talk practitioner, Franklin Method instructor, and owner of Limitless Living, LLC. Joyful, abundant, and bursting with energy. Here is your guest host, Karen Benton.
So here I am. My intention, Karen, is to provide information, experiences, science, and stories that ignite the limitless truth of your nature. Podcasts are available for every show on my website, for the shows that I'm on, KarenBenton.com, on Transformation Talk Radio, on thetruthisfunny.com. I'm so honored to be Colette's monthly guest host on the third Wednesday of every month. We invite you to call in live, questions, comments. You don't agree with what I'm saying. You totally agree with what I'm saying. It's all very much welcome. 1-800-930-2819. And I would even like to preface that with, don't believe anything that I say, which leads us right into the excitement of today's guest. I am so intrigued as someone coming from medicine of this idea that no one knows you more than you. And I was so very privileged to meet through the work that I have found over the last 10 years called Body Talk, my guest today, whose name is Kristin Pierce. And she took it to a whole nother level. She teaches one of the Body Talk classes called Mindscape, which is really about accessing your intuition. She's a Body Talk practitioner and she is an author. And her children's books speak to me deeply because they really address this growing understanding in the information age that the truth about our paths are found within us. And so with no further ado, I would like to welcome Kristin to The Truth is Funny with me.
Thank you for having me, Karen.
You have 5 children's books. Which one's your favorite?
Oh, we're going to dive right into that, aren't we?
That wasn't a question I listed. No, you know.
Oh, it's such a tough one. Honestly, I think Magnus feels like my favorite. So Magnus Omi, our Mind Pioneer.
Look, we match. Hey.
Oh, we got it. There we go. He is Mindscape. Like, this book is Mindscape, right? So it's just how we all have intuitive minds that we can tap into. And there's a whole bunch of people who've done it in the past. This is not new, Einstein and Tesla and all of these really magnificent minds used their intuition in a structured way like this to come up with fabulous ideas that have changed our world.
You mean they didn't find their ideas in a book?
No, of course not.
They didn't just read every book known to man and then come up with what was in the book and repeat it out?
Yeah, no, weird, right? Really where innovation comes from, though, when you look at the scale of what some of these people created, and it's just mind-blowing. And so in the back of Magnus, this is probably my favorite part. I'll just show it to you.
Let's go.
There are 20, I call them marvelous minds, and they're real people, and they talk about who they are, what they did, and also I call them mind hacks. So what they did to get into the state of mind to come up with their ideas. And so, yeah, that part was really fun to share, and I don't know, it's so inspiring to me to share that,
right? Like committing to exploring the path that innovators took.
Right.
How can it not ignite your own innovator in you, right?
Exactly. And that's kind of the point of Magnus, right? He's a mind pioneer, and to show kids that they can too. And then we've got all of these resources to help, like external ones they could get off my website to use in classrooms and just help ignite their own imaginations and help them see that they can create whatever they want.
Or whatever they don't know. What about that?
Yeah. Right. Well, whatever they come up with in their imagination, even if, maybe their parents or their teachers, they're like, that's a nice idea. And it's like, no, go for it.
that like Einstein was failing school, and that, right. And his mom, not his mom, his teacher wrote home that, it wasn't him that was going to end up in jail or something like that, that he, that this idea, with, and we have so many labels and identities for so many different things. Would you say I get stuck in it. I get stuck in what my label is. And that was such a big transition for me, being, a surgical trauma ICU nurse, and then a surgical trauma nurse practitioner, and then wait, what is it you do? And I'd be like, yeah, I don't know. There's no word that you're going to recognize that represents what I do, which Kristin and I have a resonance in that. Although I think you're an author, like that. That's just a safe one. Faster. People are like, oh, I know what that is. And then try, well, no, it's not Reiki. Well, no, it's not acupressure. No, it's not acupuncture. No, it's not massage. No. Well, what is it? Well, it's something brand new. And this beautiful container that you've created in your books that propagates this potential in children to bring through what doesn't already exist, to be willing to express what one might not recognize.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's really the point of it, right? And even Magnus in the book, he has trouble focusing his mind on what he's supposed to be paying attention to in class, because he's just so fascinated with all of these ideas and creations that he could make. And so, yeah, he ends up getting in trouble, and then has to go to the library and has a bunch of books that he's supposed to put back onto the shelves, and they end up falling out off the shelves and bonking him. And they're all ones that are like about these people who've used their minds in the same way. And so the cool part is I use Mindscape to create the whole book. So, right. And actually all of my books. You can't
just leave that hanging like that. What do you mean you used Mindscape, right? Like, first off, the audience can't see the pictures. They will watch the podcast. But let me just assure you, there's these amazing little pictures of these innovators that we all know and recognize, right? And so now we're moving into how she developed this storyline that, to me, is unusual in our day and age. There is some stuff coming up from mindfulness, but I would argue this is not mindfulness. This is beyond mindfulness, because you are doing the opposite of dictating, a path, but rather propagating the unknown.
Right.
And
yes.
Is that even can you say that? Propagating the unknown. Why would you want to do that?
Yeah. So basically how I do it is with Mindscape is I just get into this relaxed state where I can open up my mind and kind of travel into this imagination place in my mind. And there's a few different things I use in Mindscape for this, but the ideas just start to flow so easily. And then it's really just about paying attention to them and like grabbing some of them, and I write them down. And then it's almost like not a puzzle piece, but seeing just how do they fit together. And I don't have to make them fit together. They kind of just come together on their own. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, okay. When I get into this state where sometimes I need to do a little bit of research first, like find the information and have some things kind of just organized in my brain. And then the stories, I go into Mindscape and the story will kind of just come through, which is pretty neat. Because with Magnus, I was actually on a plane when I was writing him. Sorry?
Sorry to interrupt you. I have to know. I have to interrupt you. I have to get that question. Like, do you write it down when it starts to show up when you're in Mindscape? Because like my own thought would be like, well, then you might come out of it. But no, Mindscape teaches you to do it with your eyes open. You can still be in that state and have your eyes open and functioning in life and writing while.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So, and actually one of the places where I get in my zone the best is on planes. Like when I'm flying somewhere, I think because I'm unplugged. Right. So I just have
you can't go do the dishes when you're on a plane. You can't change a dirty diaper. You can't clean the bathroom. You can't do it's impossible. Yeah. I know. I find the same thing. Like, it's like, there's nothing better than for a mother to be trapped. Her mind will go absolutely wild, and I often will do that, put myself in a car if there's things I need, like writing in particular is something that I would, suddenly the laundry becomes very appealing when I have some writing to do,
right. Any distraction
from an entire month becomes way more important than, describing what I do, right? Which is
right. Yeah, for sure. So it was neat because actually when I was writing Magnus, like the whole plot came together when I was on a plane, and I pretty much like wrote the whole book while I was on a flight. And yeah, that's not uncommon. So Hazel Mist, Hypnotist is my newest book. And and about a year ago, trying to remember, I was sitting in a coffee shop and I wrote the whole thing in about 2 hours. And yeah, so that's one of my other favorite books, because Hazel Mist Hypnotist is really about the power of our belief systems. And so Hazel becomes fascinated with hypnotism when she watches a hypnotist on TV, and she wants to learn all about it. So her parents don't know anything about it. So she has to go to the library and start reading and learning and trying some things. And eventually she starts practicing on her friends. And then she just starts to notice some things as she has her friends hypnotized, like, their behavior changes, or they don't have the same, they don't hold themselves back in the way that maybe they did when they were not hypnotized. And so the more she learns with the more practice she's doing, she starts to see these pieces. And so she ends up with her final show taking things way deeper, where it's like, she's actually telling them like, hey, if you didn't have these blocks when you're hypnotized, do you really have them at all?
Say that again.
So yeah, she goes, if you don't have these blocks, like these mental blocks when you're hypnotized, then do you really have them at all? Like, do they even exist at all? Because if they were blocks, they would be there all the time, no matter what. Right? So she saw such change in people's behaviors.
Like I see here, this is the one that I love. Like, Did you notice, sir? You forgot your knee pain. Mm-hmm. These subtle little, we think it doesn't go away, yet something so simple as being hypnotized or even sleeping, right? Where if you want to, if someone's still caught in the idea that hypnotism is for magicians and in some way is child's play, I think that that's really what we're up against for at least many of us adults is that the things that actually create innovation are often in our modern world have a negative connotation or in some way. And here Hazel, which for a moment I thought her name was Maisel, the show I've been watching, but thanks to my daughter, but I love the name Hazel. But so where'd you get her name? It just showed up.
Yep. Just Mindscape. I don't know. Most of the names, there's been a couple times where like for the Omir last name where I knew what I wanted the first name to be. And I have looked through baby books before for Magnus and Mava just to see what their names meant too. Yeah. So there's some meaning in that. Hazel Mist just like came and I was like, all right, that's it. But yeah, it's pretty neat to be able to share that book with kids. It's obviously deeper, but it just helps them ask some questions, like question some of your things that you're thinking about yourself or others or whatever, right? We get so attached to our thinking, or even like you can see people get attached to their pain or get attached to their symptoms or get attached to their conditions, right? And that's going to make it so that can't change for you.
Or attached to their identities,
Yes.
Which is I had a college student in here, and she was starting to maybe help me with some of the Instagram, and she read through the Inner Compass book, and she just stopped and looked at me, and she was like, I could use that message to read to myself every day. And I practically welled up. I was like, well, that's the whole reason I have them here, is because as much as these were designed for children, their messages are so, so deep for all of us, because there's so much going on right now about how to make the decision that's best for you and your family.
Right.
When there's, that may go against what the rest of your family agrees with, or your
Right.
neighbors agree with, or your community, or, even your career, and what to do then, and what would Hazel do? What would she do?
Right. Absolutely. I know. Right. So it's powerful. And I like being able to share those messages with kids, because I feel like that is just empowerment packaged up in a book for them. And a lot of parents will send the message like, these are just as much for us as they are for the kids. And that was always kind of the point, almost like a Disney movie, like Moana or something like that, where it's just as much for the parents as it is for the kids.
I love that movie so much.
I know, me too.
It's well, let's go with like this idea. Go a little deeper. Like, what do you think our main blocks are from accessing? What would you say the difference between the hypnosis and the inner compass is?
I think hypnosis gets us out of our heads. Like, it helps to just melt all the blocks that would normally be dictating our behavior. Right? Because a lot of those are subconscious and we're not aware of them. But when we're hypnotized.
How about one that just came floated in, like, I'm a good girl. We make fun of that in my family, like, because my oldest daughter will always joke and be like, Mommy, I'm the good girl. But this funny thing of, even in birth order, that the oldest may be more attached to this idea that they need to please the parents and be good. And then each subsequent child, there's a whole book written on this, but tends to be willing to dance it up a little bit, has a different identity. But those are exactly the blocks that you're speaking of that keep us from our inner compass, would you say? That's it.
They definitely can. Yes, absolutely. Right. Because if you think you have to be the good girl all the time, but you are actually feeling like you want to follow this path and it doesn't align with, oh, maybe they won't think I'm the good girl, then are you actually going to be able to do that without having a whole lot of inner turmoil that's going to sabotage you from actually doing that? And then you'll come back to the safe good girl role.
Like my poor parents who now have to say, well, Karen left medicine. What does she do? I don't know. But it is like, I'm laughing, but that's a big identity, loss of, I'm a nurse practitioner. Everybody recognizes that. There's accolades for that. Oh, that's great. I'm a body talk practitioner. What? I read that on the internet and it sounds like it's quackery. Well, yes, to someone who doesn't understand the potential that lies in the unseen world and in the relationships in our body, that might be. So these are all these things that you're addressing in these books for children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and almost like trying to help normalize some things that kids don't get taught. Right? Like, how powerful is it to find out you do have an inner compass and that your body does talk to you and you have inner knowing that can actually help you make decisions that align with you and not just do things because other people might want you to, or you might think they want you to. You don't even really know. We make all kinds of assumptions, right?
It's so, so, so true that we, and I think particularly as women, we fall prey to that because I think we tend to be, particularly certain times of the month, more in tune to our own, to that sense feeling. And then again, it's not okay to disappoint people. So then we have to put on our hat and our mask and keep everyone happy. And at the end of the day, you're tired from the circus.
Right.
You don't know you were in a circus.
Right. And then it's like, okay, wait, do I actually need to do that? Who told me that?
And
is that true?
That off? Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that's really where Hazel comes in. Like, is that true? Is that the only way?
And she starts to see and be able to point out to people the things that they may not even be aware of that are changing in them. Right. Isn't that
right? Yes, absolutely. So here, I'll show you this picture. I know not everybody can see it.
But you can see it on the recording because
you can see it on the recording. Yeah. So here, Hazel, she's pulling back the curtain is one of the other little analogies kind of put in there. But if you think, this is what she says, if you think you can't or believe that you can, your mind is determined to stick to your plan. But all of these blocks you believe to be true are not in your way. They don't have to stop you. So pull back the curtain and then shine a light on the limits and blocks that just don't feel right. So she's pulling back the curtain, and then there's blocks here, and they all have words on them. So some of them are labels, some of them are emotions.
Come on, let's
some
read
of them
them.
are.
Let's put some of them.
Okay.
Blame is a big one, right? If we're not.
Blame, inner critic, the ego, obstacles even, right? Like things that we tell ourselves are in the way. Lack, excuses, failure, like fear of failure. There's even like, oh, I'm too young or I'm too old.
Yeah, I'm too young. That's such a big one.
Or I'm shy, or self-esteem stuff, or even just all the emotions, anger, worry, guilt. Guilt can be a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
it's
then over here,
it's like, but what you're saying is there's nothing wrong with being shy. But
right.
If that's the only available expression to you,
or you think you have to be that all the time because you were told and that was been reinforced, and you don't want to be that, or you have something to say, but you think you're shy. So, oh, well, I can't because I'm shy.
Right. Or what you wanted to happen didn't happen. And then you just say, oh, it's because I'm shy. As opposed to, sort of widening the perspective. Like there's just so much. It's almost like just like creating space, in these, which it's.
Right. For possibilities, right? Opening up to possibilities by questioning some of the things we think are in our way. Right. So then over here, if that's all it takes to melt fear and break walls, were you ever restricted a little at all? So question your limits, then shoot for the stars, because the big dreams we dream are meant to be ours. So then, on this page, what they're doing is they're taking some of those blocks from over here and they're breaking them. And it's quite easy, actually, which is funny. I'm like, oh, they're just foam blocks. Like they're really easy to break, but they look like blocks if you don't ask questions. Right? They look stronger.
They look heavy and they look like they're cement. And then
exactly
when you get closer, or they transform even as you put your hands on them. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know. So that one, there was definitely some hesitancy at times for me for sharing that. Cause it's like, how's this going to go? But it's like, no, it came to the surface for a reason. Right?
Yeah. And have you met any resistance with it?
No.
Yeah. Right.
That's the other thing. When I work through my own, that I don't even have that as an experience, right?
All right. Well, that has to come after the break. That's so good. This idea of, it's not about changing other people, but offering opportunity to others through your own transformation, which is what she just said, right? I address my own issues with whatever's arising, and then watch how that doesn't. Whoa. Let's address that a little bit when we get back. Not a little bit, maybe a lot of it. Let's just dive in deep when we get back from the break. Thank you all to the community for listening in. Getting excited about the potential for our children, getting excited about opportunities, getting excited about these beliefs and the opportunities that they hold, and then honoring the talents of someone like my amazing guest today, Kristin Pierce, who's taken these profound ideas and put them into books so that children have access to these expansive opportunities just before bedtime, maybe. All right. When we come back, we're going to look at what we were talking about, transformation through self.
Raising the vibrations through stimulating conversations while exploring the mysteries of Atlantis and Lemuria on Tales from the Merworld Radio with me, Amira Beth. Join us every second and fourth Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Be ready to feel empowered and an active part of the changing earth. For more information about me, visit AmiraBeth.com.
The Truth is Funny. Shift Happens with Colette Marie Steffen is excited to welcome Karen Benton as a monthly guest host. Tune in on the third Wednesday of each month at 8 a.m. Pacific Time to regain confidence and trust in your capacity to create change in your life, your health, your family, and your well-being. Karen Benton is a mother, nurse practitioner, certified body talk practitioner, Franklin Method instructor, and owner of Limitless Living LLC. For more information about Karen, visit KarenBenton.com.
Tune in to The Truth is Funny with Colette Steffen each Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. This hit show will have you thinking outside the box and riding the wave of infinite potential. Join Colette on the Higher Self Network, inspiring listeners to shine their brilliance and ensure success while roaring with laughter as they recognize the humor of the giant cosmic joke. Visit thetruthisfunny.com.
Hey everyone, it's me, Psychic Medium Jamie.
And me, Spirit Walker Nicole from Shades of Spirit, bringing you another Shades of Spirit tip of the week. Jamie, have you ever wondered if spirit or an angel is around you or your home?
Ever since I was a child. And today we're going to go over a few signs and indications that they are near us.
What about hearing your name called but you can't quite find the source? Does that happen to you?
All the time. I see moving shadows or bursts of color out of the corner of my eyes.
I'll have objects that go missing and then turn up in the most random places.
Especially when you're trying to get out the front door. I'll have electrical devices that turn on and off for no reason.
I'll see repetitive number sequences such as 444, 1111, or 1234.
Join us each week, Monday mornings at 8 a.m. for our Shades of Spirit podcast on Transformation Talk Radio. You can also follow us and make appointments on shadesofspirit.com or give us a call at 858-684-7575 to book your appointment.
Stuck in a roundabout of dysfunction? Learn how to speak your truth to power with host Dr. Kathy Obear. Create real change with smart tools and smart strategies. No frills, no fluff, just life-changing conversations to help get you where you want to be. Extend your reach and become an agent for real change with Kathy Obear. For more information on Kathy and her work, please visit drkathyobear.com. That's drkathyobear.com.
You are listening to the Truth is Funny radio show on Transformation Talk Radio. My guest today is Kristin Pierce, and we are discussing her incredible foray into authoring books for children that have many themes, but I think the inner compass is a theme that is threaded throughout all of them, looking within for solutions, finding your own way in your life experience, utilizing your own unique expression, your own unique characters and qualities as something that you check in with regularly as a tool for guidance to transform your path, to move your path forward to whatever it may be. And please call in if you are so inclined, 1-800-930-2819. We love comments, we love questions, we love suggestions, we love anything. Just say hello. We'll take that as well. So right before the break, Kristin was speaking about, I had asked her if she had ever gotten any challenging feedback with her books, because some of the ideas are, I think the way we're speaking and presenting them today, they seem quite natural, but they do fly in the face of the premise of really some of the basic tenets of our educational system, right? That you need to learn other people's information to take a test and prove that you know it and that you understand it. And so much of our childhood is based on performing that task over and over and over again. And here she is presenting these amazing books that are celebrating imagination, celebrating daydreaming, celebrating hypnosis, celebrating what we can sense and feel. And so we'll just go back. And I said, did you ever receive any challenge or negative feedback from the themes of your book or whatever you did? And
No, not at all. I had a lot of resistance, even in writing them, and So I actually found, before I even released my first book, because this was completely new for me, I used to not think I was creative in any way. I didn't write creatively until I was 30. I had so many limiting belief systems about creativity in the first place. Like, I was athletic, I was science, I was good at math, that was me, right? And so I had a lot of undoing of belief systems to do in order to even get to the place where, oh, I do have an idea. Maybe I'll sit down and see what happens with it. Like, that was not me for so long. And so then when I did write my first book, I was like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do with this? And I sat on it for quite a while until I had somebody challenge that belief. Like, I was talking about how we get in our way all the time. And I actually had a Mindscape student challenge me. And I was like, okay. So once I looked into, okay, what am I going to do to actually self-publish this book? It was quite easy. Like, right? Like, just how are blocks? Oh, hey, that wasn't actually a block. And so I did have resistance before releasing my first one, because I was like, okay, this is about inner compass and intuition. And oh my gosh, like, it was scary for my ego. So I actually eventually, I avoided it for a while when I got my copy in my hand. And then eventually I had to have a little date with my book where I like sat down, cleared my schedule, and like looked through every single page and actually read it out loud to myself, because I was really uncomfortable with it and the thought of sharing it with people. And so I had to, do some work to get through some of those things. And I've had no resistance, but I've actually had to do that with every single book. There's been different kinds of resistance that show up before I'm actually ready to release it. Yeah. And so by working through those things before I release the book, it has been really amazing, because then I'm working through my resistance and I don't have to have it show up externally and kind of get pushed in my face, right? Because it's like, okay, I already knew that was there. And instead of avoiding it, let's actually lean into it, investigate it. And then and then you don't need to have those experiences. But if you do have like if I was actually having resistance show up from people, then it would be like, okay, where am I actually still feeling resistant to this? And what more do I need to unravel?
Oh my goodness, listening to you, I'm starting to yawn, which maybe we should tell the audience. That's not a sign.
You're bored. I'm just kidding.
I was like, oh my goodness, a yawn, because I'm sort of scanning my own life of like, even like the radio shows that I do, how much effort I put into promoting them, and having an awareness of my own resistance to putting my own work out there. And so listening to you talk, there's so much wisdom behind the words. So kind of like you said, you sit with it, and then all of a sudden I'm going to yawn now. Your body gives you this opportunity. How do you describe yawns to your, students and your clients?
I would say that it's a lot about processing, right? Like, your body is actually trying to, like, your masseters are such a muscle that help you chew and digest and work through concepts and ideas, and not just your food, right? Emotions, thoughts, all of those things. So sometimes we need to be stretching them or contracting them to help things move through our bodies, throughout our minds. So it's like really that digestion and that processing of new information.
How hilarious that it's such an expansive experience, yet under this umbrella of disrespect, and you're showing that you're bored, and yet it's such a natural inclination in the body, particularly when you relax and you really start to receive what's happening. Your body will do exactly what it needs to help you support it to come through even more. And yet we as a society have sort of mislabeled it, misrepresented it. So it's always a funny thing for me where I'm trying to, make my clients feel comfortable about it, or my students feel comfortable about it. Like, no, I see you are.
You don't need to cover your yawn, right?
So parents, if you're reading these amazing books to your children at night and they're yawning, it might not just be because they're tired. They might be really receiving the information on a deeper level, and their body supporting the mechanism which helps them process it and receive it even more deeply. Well, I kind of lost what I was thinking about, other than, why I love doing what I do, which is, as you have these intimate conversations of the experiences that we have in life, and you share the challenges, you give each person an opportunity to see some of the restrictions that they may be ready to move through. And
right.
Again, the other thing I love about this book, if we kind of tie it, or not this, but all the books, is if we tie it around to the current world is very much about the immune system and very much about supporting, well, maybe not so much about supporting health, but those of us that want to do that are foraying into this, how can we support health in general? And we know that being in the fight or flight experience, right, being scared, being fearful, shuts down the immune system, right? It's just a natural, you can't be both. You can't be in protection mode and you can't be out there mode. And so leaning into is what you were saying. I leaned into the fear. I leaned into my own resistance and how that created this sort of release, which we could say,
or healing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that moment, like a yawn, right? You do yawn,
right.
you feel the relaxation that comes across your body.
Mm-hmm.
That immediately you've shifted from fear and protection into openness and reception.
Right. Expansion.
Yeah. And the body like recognizes it without you thinking about it, right? You didn't think, oh, I need to yawn right now. Like the body just did it. Like I'm on a radio show. It's not really the best time for the host to be yawning. But what if I could just say, my natural intelligence knows more than me, and than me, maybe my mind or my thoughts.
Right. Right.
That's what these
are. For sure. So even just teaching kids that they do have an inner compass can help them get connected with it. Right. And it's so powerful because you can see that kids can then start to pay attention to what their body is telling them, or pay attention to their ideas or their feelings that pop up, even if there might not be an explanation for it. Right. Because usually that's how intuition works. It just comes. And so being in tune with that, it's been really neat just to see, like, even with my kids, watching how, my daughter she'll just say things without filtering them, because a lot of times we get taught that we need to filter things. And so it's really interesting just to watch them honor that inner wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they're just, I don't know, they can learn, like, by knowing they have an inner compass, they can learn how to listen to their bodies. Like my kids ask if they're not sure how to make a decision about even what to have for breakfast. It's like, ask your body what it wants to eat. And so they'll actually like say out loud, hey body, what do you want for breakfast? And it's really funny because my 4-year-old will do that. And then he'll be like, oh, okay. And then he'll tell me what his body told him. It's just so funny. And I'm like, awesome, good job. And so then it's like, hey,
hang on, I need to go shopping. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Right. But it's really cute because they'll be like, my mind doesn't know what I want for breakfast. Like, I don't know what I want to eat. But if I check in with my body, it's like, okay, I'll have this. And just, I find when we teach kids to honor just what their intuition's telling them from a young age, it makes it a lot easier.
You've been listening to The Truth is Funny with Colette Steffen. Tune in to The Truth is Funny with Colette Steffen each Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Join Colette on the Higher Self Network as she provides energetic shifts and consistent results in every area of life, inspiring listeners to shine their brilliance and ensure success while roaring with laughter as they recognize the humor of the giant cosmic joke. The Truth is Funny. Visit thetruthisfunny.com for more information. That's thetruthisfunny.com.
Views expressed on this program are those of the host, guests, and callers, and do not necessarily reflect the views of the station, its management, or advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.